knocked loose. It will be by the time I'm done with her. Hello, gamers. Welcome to yet another episode of the Cuddlepunk podcast. I am your host, the mastermind, Veronica Vext. With me today for a very special episode of the Cuddlepunk podcast. We're doing our little mid-year roundup of what's been going on here, and I figured the only person that I could get to do that is my lovely girlfriend, Scarlett. Scarlett, how are you today?
Excited. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about this shit. As I've been sharing with you for the last couple of months, there's a lot of cool shit that's come out.
It's been a very, very just interesting year for music in general. I think this is gonna be one of those years where, like, in the mainstream, it's like not taken as seriously for some reason. But I think that there's a lot of people who are just really bringing just really new shit to the table, and even if it's not like the most new stuff, it's still presented in a way that's interesting, which I think we're gonna get into with a lot of our stuff. Do you want to talk a little bit about your background with music listening and all of the stuff? Because your picks are gonna be leaning in a particular direction.
Yeah. So, hi, I'll take this. Most of what I listen to on a day-to-day basis is very metal-centric. It doesn't stay in any particular genre of metal, but it is a lot heavier than, I would say, most people's tastes. So my list is very rock focused, very heavy centric. Nothing non-heavy comes in until my honorable mentions. So the top 5 are pretty fucking heavy.
It's been a fairly heavy centric year for me as well. I think that in metal, I don't think had the best year last year, especially. Like, you had your Sleep Tokens and everything, but you still had, like, that new terrible Avenged Sevenfold record, and you had, like, just a bunch of shit that, like, fell well below what I think people's expectations were for metal, and a lot of it that was just sounding like the same shit. Actually, that's not even something I can say about Life is But a Dream by Avenged Sevenfold, because they were going for it.
It just didn't fucking work out.
It didn't fucking work. They were trying for, like, the Mr. Bungle, like, crotch dusters, like, Residence side of things, and it just didn't come across in the way that, I know there are people who watch me who really like that record, but it didn't work out for me. But I think this year, a lot of the heavier bands have really, really been coming through, and I think that's gonna, like, come through in both of our lists.
For sure, yeah.
Do you want to start us off with your number 5 pick?
Yeah.
For the mid-year of 2024.
Yeah, sure. So, my top pick, I think you might be surprised by
your
this.
Top 5 pick.
My top 5 pick is Saviors by Green Day. Yes, I know. I think...
I'm just making sure you are putting a post-American Idiot Green Day record on your top 5 list of the year so far.
Yes, because most of what I've listened to has been rock, so I haven't really strayed outside of that. I think the thing that I like the most about it for me is that it made me, like, feel like I was listening to not, like, a Dookie era or a Nimrod era, but, like, a good Green Day rock record. It wasn't the best, but I think for what it is, it made me feel like I'm listening to Green Day, which I can't say about any of the last, like, 3 albums they've released.
I did give Saviors a spin once when it first came out, and then recently when you were telling me how much you liked it. My thing with Green Day is, so I've seen Green Day twice in the past 3 years-ish. I saw them on Hella Mega with Fall Out Boy and Weezer, and then I saw them at Lollapalooza. I don't know if it's just the set list that they had, but there is something about Green Day since 2020, since Father of All Motherfuckers, because I'm a defender of a lot of Green Day shit. I'm a defender of 21st Century Breakdown. I like a lot of stuff off the trilogy. I think that Revolution Radio is a really underrated album. The thing, this was since Father of All Motherfuckers, and then with this album as well, it's just, they felt old. They feel really ancient, and nothing sums that up better than both of the times that I've seen them in the last 3 years. They have covered I Wanna Rock and Roll All Night by Kiss. And no punk band should be covering Kiss, except Damager, because they're the exception that proves the rule. But it does not, in a way that last year's Blink album felt like stuck in time in a way where people were having fun. I don't hear the fun necessarily on that record, on Saviors by Green Day.
That's fair. I like it. I think it's a bop. I think it's fucking great.
That's awesome for you. I'm very happy for you. We're not gonna...
If that's your opinion on my number 5, you're gonna fucking hate my number 4.
I'm terrified.
Yeah, you should be.
I'm gonna try to bring some culture back to this show.
You're gonna fucking hate my number 4.
My number 5 for the year is Please Don't Cry by Rhapsody. Rhapsody took a couple of years off after Eve came out to figure herself out and really figure out where she stood in hip-hop, because she's got this very interesting thing where she is very highly respected by the critical consensus and by the hip-hop community themselves, but it does not translate to sales and singles because she's not playing into the like pop rap side that like a Doja Cat or a Megan Thee Stallion or even like Lotto is really like leaning into, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that Rhapsody is one of the best in the world, and I think that all the people that I just mentioned are incredibly talented and have put out a lot of stuff that I really, really like. But that is the focus of this record. The thing that this is a very big comparison to make, but the biggest comparison that I can make to Please Don't Cry, and it's mentioned on the record several times, is the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. On the album, Rhapsody is constantly talking about understanding Lauryn and why she left the industry as a whole, why she completely just disappeared and is like very... We all know the stories about Lauryn Hill at this point. We know about her leaving, like not showing up to shows or showing up 2 hours late, or just having like stuff going on that is more important to her mental state than the music. And this feels like a really good, not just comparison in that way, but just the way it's her figuring out her place in the wider hip-hop community. Beats by like Hit Boy and stuff are incredible. She gets very in-depth about how she fell out with her past producer. It is probably I haven't listened to the Vince Staples yet, but this is probably so far my favorite hip-hop release of the year.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna need to give it a listen then, because that sounds great. I love Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, so I am gonna have to, even if it's a big jump to make, I'm gonna have to listen to it.
I saw a tweet the other day about the new Taco Bell app redesign, and it said, "Why did they Lauryn Hillify the Taco Bell app?" It has nothing to do with anything. I just felt the need to share that.
No, that's exactly what they did. Yeah, that's exactly what they did.
What's your number 4, Ben?
Okay, so I'm actually changing it up last minute.
No, you have to tell me what it was going to be.
I will tell you what it was going to be. It was going to be Clancy by 21 Pilots.
Okay.
I liked it because at my core, I am a blurry face girly. Like, I bought the cassette when they had that. Like, I had the Vessel cassette. I was a 21 Pilots girly. I think I realized that I actually want to put the Plot and Use EP, Volume 1, they put out in, like, January on there. I found Forgotten through TikTok, and it slowly became one of my, like, favorite releases of just the year so far. It's a 3-song EP, but it fucking hits heavy. Really fucking hard.
Plot and You, I have not given that much of a listen. Would you say that, from what I've gathered, they're in the, like, Bad Omens, Sleep Token side of metalcore, where it's, like, 1975 songs with breakdowns?
So, I don't think it's like 1975. I think it is...
That's a Dean quote, so you can blame him for that.
I think it is heavier than your, like, Sleep Token-esque band. It's not as let's fuck metal as it is I'm sad metal. Forgotten, specifically the song that I found them through, is like, it's just such a fucking song. It's so fucking good. It's so heavy, and it just... there are 2 breakdowns in it that just make me lose my shit every fucking time, and... they're a band that if I ever get to see live, it's a bucket list for sure.
That sounds bad. I feel like I've seen the Plot and You at some point in my life.
It wouldn't surprise me with your goddamn concert list.
I've been to a lot. It's the only thing I spend my money on. It's the only thing I have to spend money on at this point. My number 4 is The Cons of Being a Wallflower by Evie Echoes and the Solutions. I had the privilege of finally meeting Evie and seeing her perform live with the locations at SPI Fest this past month. Evie is, I think, one of the best new, like, just faces in not just punk or ska, but just rock music in general. She is in my opinion, the reincarnation of polystyrene. Songs like Liar, especially seeing the solo for that one just be ripped live. Users, Letters You Wrote, People Pleaser especially, I think like hit me especially close to home. I can't imagine what I don't think you would have seen a song like People Pleaser hitting me hard.
No, couldn't ever see that one hitting hard.
Absolutely not. And then I think that Odd Man Out on the last song, if you are a trans femme person and you can't relate at least a little bit to Odd Man Out, you might need to ask yourself some questions, or you're just doing great, in which case great for you.
Good on you. Tell me your secrets.
It's a very good for you moment.
How do you fucking do it? Please tell me.
Evie's a star. The album's fantastic. It came out on a random fucking Tuesday at the very beginning of this year.
Honestly, as all the best releases do. For some reason, it's just a day in the middle of the week that they drop it, and it knocks it out of the park every time.
So back in the day, it used to be Tuesday was album release day. They switched it to Friday about maybe 10, 15 years ago. Do you want to know which Tuesday Silver Side Up by Nickelback was released on?
I actually know the answer to this question, V.
We're not going to go... Leave a comment down below if if you know what Nickelback did on that fateful day.
Listen, let's just say I'll never forget what they did.
I'm a Nickelback defender, but we do have to never forget what Nickelback did that day.
Yeah, there's nothing funny about the album number sales either.
Perfect.
There's nothing funny about it.
There's nothing funny. Not one thing funny about it.
No, not at all.
What is your number 3?
Okay. My number 3 is Next Gen. It's Bring Me the Horizon. I think we've talked about this before. In my opinion, the OST tracks are the ones that work the least. I know that you've said that you think the singles don't work. I think, in my experience listening to it, it really has felt in some spots like one long song, which I'm a slut for. I love long
you're a
form
prog
albums.
girl.
I am a prog girl. I don't think that it is... I think it's bloated. I think it's way too long. I do think that they could have trimmed off a lot of it, but I think that how varied every track is from the next works better if you are more chronically online. I mean, they fucking sampled Sands in the album that I think if you showed it to any, standard music critic for, Pitchfork or some shit, their opinion would just be like, haha, video game mentioned, why? But to me, it's that's a funny fucking use of that in a really good spot. And I'm a sucker for the Deftones guitar on Limousine. You showed me someone saying that, they didn't like how the feature was used, and I couldn't give a shit. I think her voice was perfect for that song. It felt like it was the right air for it. And again, the fucking guitar just sells me on that track alone.
I love so much of Next Gen. I think you are right in that I said that I think the singles don't work. I also don't think the OSTs work. I've said this to you before. The album that it reminds me of the most is Wretched and Divine by Black Veil Brides, where it feels like it's going for this grandiosity with a storyline that it can't necessarily handle. And my issue with the singles is specifically that they don't fit into that. It very clearly fit. Die For You was written, what is a 3-year-old song at this point. And also, I am going to compare this out, Next Gen, which again is an album that I really, really enjoy.
An EP.
An EP,
which I still don't get why they've done this as an EP if they're doing the world tour as the Next Gen world tour. Just release it as a fucking album.
I can't tell if they've released it. Have they said it's an album or an EP?
It's an EP. It's classified as an EP on Music Brains.
It's longer than most albums.
Yes, it is. It's like an hour long, and it's still a fucking EP. I don't get it.
I don't understand. What I want to compare it to is one of my honorable mentions of the year, which is only an honorable mention because it's only been out for a week or so, which is Modify's EP Mod Style.
Mm-hmm.
That EP works so well as a debut because it is, I said this in my interview with her, it's not a cohesive EP necessarily, but it does show up everything that you're going to get from Mod. And I think you could say the same thing about Next Gen if this wasn't probably going to be one of the last times they have a sound like this because Jordan Fisher has left the group.
I think that it's a little too ambitious, and I would have preferred they do something like release half of it on another post-human EP, because I really like the going from survival horror to Next Gen. That concept of building the world out in survival horror, and then I guess having some ARG with Next Gen, that's great. I love that. I love it when media is interactive in more than one way. However, I feel like the reliance on the story in Next Gen, with all of the computer vocals and with all of the you don't have access to this, and with the website that they've done, it's a little too much for what this is supposed to be, which is a follow-up to survival horror. Like NA, right? It's a track that has vocals recorded at concerts. That's a really cool concept. I love that and want to see more bands doing that. What I don't like about it is that I saw the videos of it being recorded at those shows, and it's not introduced by Ollie walking out and going, hey, we should record some vocals for a song. Wouldn't that be cool? We're working on this. It's introduced by their computer AI thing, the robot that's on the big screens going, do you fuckers want to record a song? Let's fucking go. I can't hear you.
They're TikTokifying their own content.
It truly is, and it's the most upsetting thing to me, because I just want, like, if you're gonna do it, it has to be a healthy balance. And for a band that's been around as long as Bring Me the Horizon, I would hope that they would be able to get a better balance of the bonus material and the actual music. Can we also agree on one thing before we move on?
Please.
Lost is just an anime intro.
Lost is
just an anime intro.
And one more thing before we move on. I think if they were going to start with the ARG stuff, they should have started it back
They should have started it with survival horror, for sure.
They should have started with survival horror.
For sure. Yeah.
And I will at least agree with you that their EP series is going better than Weezer's.
Oh, it absolutely is. Oh, no, it absolutely is. At the very least, I want to listen to Next Gen more than once.
Jesus Christ. Number 3 for me is an album that I just heard this week, but captured me so much that it's really hard. It's been very hard for me to listen to anything else. It's Prelude to Ecstasy by The Last Dinner Party. Last Dinner Party are one of these, like, British Baroque pop bands that got, like, super big, super fast. Like, they met in 2021, and their album is out now, and they've been opening for, like, Hosier and Florence and a bunch of other of these, like, huge, like what's that festival that you kept wanting us to go to?
Hinterlands.
Yes.
I've heard a lot about The Last Dinner Party, and I have not actually had a chance to give it a listen yet, but I've really wanted to, just reading, like, some of the interviews that they've been doing and just about some of the music that they've released so far.
I would call it Black Country New Road by way of, like, churches with a little bit of Muna mixed in there. It's very fucking gay.
Okay.
It's very Kate Bush, like, all the way up there, like, artsy type stuff. Songs like Beautiful Boy and Burn Alive, and the singles like Sinner and Nothing Matters are... It feels like you are... It's the album that has most this year made me feel like I am looking into a scene. Like looking into a play describing a aspect of someone's life at this point. And I think that I really do hope that Last Dinner Party is able to continue this. They're playing fucking Lala this year.
That's fucking impressive. That's, yeah.
On their first album, they're playing, like...
On their first album 2 years after they met. 3 years. God, it's 2024.
It is 2020, yeah.
Shit.
That is the conceit of this episode, yes.
Fuck.
No, I think the album is fantastic. I think it's real. And the reason why I want to defend myself a little bit, why Mod's EP is an honorable mention, despite the fact that I've had 2 weeks to listen to that, rather than like a week to listen to that, rather than the Last Dinner Party thing. The thing is that with 4 of the songs on Mod's EP, I've had so much time to listen to them because, like, She's the Homie, and I've heard them before they came out.
You have the hookup, yeah.
The other 2 songs I haven't, like, had as much time to listen to just yet, and they haven't stuck with me as much yet. I know they're going to. Listen, Maud's going to be on the big list by the end of the year. You all know how I work here. She's done my top song of the year the last 2 years in a row. It's going to move up. But I think that Last Dinner, like, it's just, even just the style of it, with, like, the orchestral stuff coming in the front and just everything moving through the record with so many different soundscapes. It's we're recording this before Brat comes out. Brat notwithstanding, this is probably going to be my pop release of the year.
My number 2 for this year, Disembodied Tyrant and Sinestro put out this EP called The Poetic Edda, and it is one of my favorite things this year. You said in the take that we just tried to do that you hadn't heard of it, and I'm happy that you hadn't, because I get to show you that after we finish recording. It is some of the most technical death metal I have heard in the last, 10 years. They're so intricate and they're so, precise with how they play that I'm shocked that it's not a program playing it. One of the songs that they have on there is a metal version of the orchestral piece Winter. From the Four Seasons.
From the Vivaldi's Four Seasons.
Yes. And so I
almost said Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons. Which is a Modern Family joke.
The orchestral suite, Winter, by Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons. Yes. It is the breakdown that they have on that, the way that they meld the guitar with the actual orchestra playing with them. They knock it out of the fucking park. I am a sucker for orchestral metal. I'm a Lorna Shore girly. I love all of their early shit. Some of my favorite albums, my favorite band of all time, Opeth, has an album that they released with one of the metal magazines in Europe, where they did a concert of some of their songs with an orchestra in Plovdiv, Russia. And that is one of my top listens of all time by them, because there is something so special and, precise about melding something as soft and, it's not always soft, but, soft and light quality that some classical music has, and taking those instruments and putting them behind some of the hardest, heaviest, harshest things you've heard in your entire fucking life. If anyone wants a very good, example of that, Deliverance, off of that Live in Plovdiv album by Opeth, is, I don't know how they somehow make music that I think already sounds orchestral, sound more orchestral. So I'm a sucker for it. All of that to say. The Poetic Edda, every single track on there kept my attention. The way that I like to listen to music, especially when I'm going to be talking about it to someone, is I will put something on or be doing something. Like I was playing solitaire while I was listening to all of the music that I've been listening to prepare for this. And I stopped what I was doing to listen to these 4 tracks, because the second that first one hits, you're fucking in. It's over. You cannot stop listening until it's done. 10 out of fucking 10. The only reason they're not my number 1 is because of my number 1. I can't not have my number 1 be my number 1.
I completely understand. I, too, am... Basically, my number 2 and number 1 pick are tied until the end of this year. It's Dead Babe.
Ah, fuck! Shit!
I put it in my pocket for a reason.
Damn it!
Christ, woman!
You're gonna be listening to that in the edit, and you're just gonna fucking... Ah! Ow!
See what happens?
This is staying in.
Yes.
Keep this in.
Oh, this is staying in. So my number 2, we definitely didn't just leave. My number 2 and my number 1 are basically tied.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a fight to determine which one's gonna win me over by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
My number 2 album of the year is Keep Your Cool by Riley.
Okay.
Riley was a band that, I've had them on the show. They were on the WrestleMania episode with Summer Brews.
Mm-hmm.
Riley are fantastic. I was really looking forward to this album, and then when it came out, I think I did listen to it every single day, multiple times a day for a month.
Mm-hmm.
It is...
That's been me with my number 1.
Exactly.
Honestly. Yeah.
It's such a good representation of what the, new DIY, new, 5th or whatever the fuck wave emo that we're on right now, like that Coachella side of things. It is the best version of that I think I've heard, and I'm saying that because, I mean, Ben Quad hasn't put out a record yet. I love you, Riley, but once that Ben Quad comes out, ooh baby. But no, 777 is such an incredible intro track with that winner. Bad Boys Boxing Club is incredible. Kill Your Boss, obviously, we all love the sentiment of that song. Who wouldn't want to do that? I don't have a boss right now, so I can say that.
Neither do I.
Perfect.
Yeah, let's go.
And then Ego Peak Mid, just fucking... I'm just gonna say the lyrics to the chorus.
Go for it.
Oh my god, take a look at your face. Even when you feel at home, you look so fucking out of place.
Oh, that's not going to keep me up at night for a week.
Yeah, it's a 30-minute record, but I'm not going to say it'll hit you as hard as Law Dispute, but it will hit you in different ways than Law Dispute will.
Yeah.
Because they're completely different bands, but they both, like, give that, and it's the thing that I love the most about Keep Your Cool, and Riley specifically. There is a tendency with pop punk and emo to come off so whiny when you are punching. It feels like if they're not punching up, then they're at least punching equally to whatever has fucked them over, because there's a lot of shit that sounds like it's punching down in this scene.
I wanna say one thing then about my number 3, Bring Me the Horizon, because I feel like a lot of the lyrics on that album did relate to me a lot more than a lot of the stuff that I've listened, like Forgotten. I don't have any friends who use drugs like that, but that song still fucking hits. Lost, What the Hell Is Wrong With Me, Stupid Medicine, Not Doing Anything, that is one of the most prevalent, like, permanent examples of music relating to me that I've seen in a long time. And I think that's another reason why I liked it so much. Not to completely interject in the middle of your number 2, but
you interject
your number 2!
No, I would agree. Like, Lost is the reason why I have the Lost shirt, like, from Bring Me the Horizon. I love that. I don't want to say that I don't like that record. That's on my honorable mentions. But Keep It Cool by Riley, I'm just so stoked to see them in a live setting. And if I can listen to a record and think, oh god, I can't wait to see this live, I know it's going to stick with me forever. You go first with your honorable mentions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I tried to keep my list, like, varied, like things that I don't normally listen to. It didn't end up being that way.
Right.
Most of those things fell on my honorable mentions. In addition to that, all of my honorable mentions are artists I am a fan of already, and that I do religiously listen to their stuff. The perfect example of that is Ata Vista by Childish Gambino. I adore that man's creativity. I don't agree with some of the lyrics and just kind of the weird things about him and what he does, but I think that as a creative force, he is something to be reckoned with. And when 3:15:20 came out, I was all over that shit. I am happy that they finally released Human Sacrifice. The only reason it is not anywhere on my list, and that I don't think it will be, is because it was released in 2020 half-finished. I love the fact that there was some mystery about it, and I love the release of it, but to just surprise drop an album you already dropped...
You already surprise dropped.
Yeah. To double surprise drop the same album with, let's be honest, not that many big differences. Human Sacrifice is the only new track added. They took out one of my favorite songs from 3:15:20, which I'm going to have to look up because they're all fucking numbers. One of my favorite tracks from 3:15:20, 32:22, is this, like, dark, like, brooding fucking beat with him just vocalizing over it. And that's one of my favorite releases that he's had. He did it live at Coachella, and then he put it out on 3:15:20, and it's nowhere on Ata Vista. And that's really disappointing. I feel like for what 3:15:20 was, it was not the best thing he's ever put out, but it wasn't awful. And so it's kind of disappointing to see it come out like this.
It feels like he's using another album this is a very Childish Gambino thing to do, using the re-release of a record / a new record to promote the next record that's supposed to be coming out this summer.
And, like, as of recording this, he's been teasing stuff on TikTok and on Instagram, posting really weird videos, including one of him sitting on a horse while the horse is pissing over his new music playing in the background.
That's kind of hard.
It's not. It's really disturbing, just watching a horse casually piss on the ground. I didn't need to see that just come across my TikTok feed.
I know a worse video with the horse.
We're not making Mr. Hands jokes, V. I'm gonna run through the rest of my honorable mentions super quick. I am too much of a fan of Childish Gambino to let my disappointment not be known.
Of course.
Unheard by Hosier. I am a metalhead first, a yearning lesbian second. So the Hosier release had to be on there, especially for Too Sweet. There's something hypnotic about that lesbian man's yearning, and it just pulls me in every time. This one released yesterday, New Way Out by Poppy. I love Poppy. I'm a sucker for Poppy. I want to go see her every chance I can. There's not enough of a release there for me to have it make it on my list. It's good. I'm excited to see what else is coming. I think if the album releases this year, or if the project releases this year, it could be an album of the year contender for me because I'm a whore for Poppy. But I have to see more to know that. And the last thing is the Sasanta EPPP, as they called it, because Primus, Pucifer,
right.
Perfect Circle. Maynard James Keenan, you have my fucking heart, you crazy old man. I will support everything that he does, including his wine that is named after a dick wig, Merkin.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm a big old fan of Tool. I'm a big old fan of Perfect Circle. I am a huge fan of Primus. Primus sucks. Fuck Primus. I will listen to anything that they put out, and even if I don't like it, it will still probably hit at least the honorable mentions list for me, just because it's a new release by them. It's going to be musically, it might not be good, but it'll be musically talented, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
So a thing I wanted to add to my honorable mentions. It came out last year, so it's technically cheating, but Peter Gabriel released an album called I.O. I think the release of it was really weird. He released a single a month for a year, and it came out in October, on October 1st. It's a good album. It's a very good album. I think more people should listen to it because I was raised on Peter Gabriel. I was raised on Genesis. I was raised on Yes. That style of music specifically, early British progressive rock, is my heart and soul. And I got the chance, and this is absolutely why I want to put it on my honorable mentions. I'm very biased. I got to see Peter Gabriel live twice last year, which, let's be honest, it's probably going to be his last tour. This is most definitely his last album. I think he can work on new music, but if he takes the time that he took in between, I think it was Us as his last album. If he takes the same time between that and this album,
we're gonna have another Black Star situation.
We're gonna have another Black Star situation. I got to see him live twice last year, and it was both of those experiences were some of the greatest concerts I've been to in my life. I was lucky enough to get to sit super close to the stage. The first show I went to was with my dad. He's the one who showed me Peter Gabriel, so that was a really nice thing to get to experience. And the other concert was with another one of my partners, Jade.
Polylife, baby.
Polylife, let's go. Who we had been together for a little while at that point, and I was really trying to show her like what this music means to me. And getting to see Peter Gabriel up close in that kind of format, with the new music and playing all the old hits, like I have to say, even though we were in fucking Milwaukee and we're surrounded by a bunch of, no offense to people from Milwaukee, beer-drinking rednecks, I still, it felt like everyone around us understood what that experience was, of two young kids getting to see Peter Gabriel sing love songs. And it was such a special experience for me that I don't think I'll ever get to have again. And that is why this new album, I.O., means so much to me, because it feels like I'm just a kid listening to Peter Gabriel. The songs might not be the best, but it's a Peter Gabriel release. How can you not fucking love
I love hearing you talk about Peter Gabriel.
I love talking about Peter Gabriel. Give me any fucking chance and I will. You want to hear the history about Genesis? I could do an entire fucking episode of your podcast talking about progressive rock.
This episode's already like an hour long.
I know.
My honorable mentions, I'm going to go through some singles first.
Mm-hmm.
This is an embarrassment, probably my single of the year. A bar song, Tipsy by Shabuzi. I am no longer secret country fan. The fact that dude made a hip-hop tinged country song that is A, jam, and B, interpolates one of my least favorite songs of all time, Tipsy by Chingy, and still works, that's a masterclass to me.
You know, it's funny, as I said the same thing about the Lil Nas X Old Town Road remix with Billy Ray Cyrus. They brought something I did not fucking like, Billy Ray Cyrus, into an actual hip-hop song that worked country into it. And that song is country. You can't convince me of anything else. That song is fucking country. And that's cunt spelled C-U-N-T.
Damn right. Damn right. Damn right.
That's Orville Peck country. That's fucking...
Other singles, Meet the Grams / Not Like Us by Kendrick. We're not getting into it because we've both put too much time into thinking about that man this year.
I have heard so much about that man's hidden children. Good lord.
Just, like, he back-to-back Drake. That's all you gotta say about it.
He back-to-back and doubled Drake. Dude released 2 songs before Drake even had a chance to fucking release another one. Are you kidding me? He didn't just fucking back-to-back him. He murdered him.
Well,
he
Drake did it first. Drake
him.
did it first in the beef with the AI song and with push-ups.
Do you really want to count the AI song?
No, you're doing it great.
Yeah.
Good Luck Babe by Chapel Roan. It's Chapel. It's perfect. So True Bestie by Eichlers. I'm a sucker for a song about a dog. This Is the Peak by Belushi Speedball. Belushi Speedball are the homies. Making a song about Fantano is a way to get onto a list of mine. This one just came out a couple of days ago. Elster State's The Desert Town by La Dispute. This is like a 10-year-old B-side that they just randomly put out. I think it's really good. It does... The one thing that I'll say about it is the spoken word parts by Jordan. They do feel slightly vessel-y. Like, it very feels like, I wake up finding it. It's not the best vocally, but it's La Dispute. It's hard for me to hate.
It's 10-year-old La Dispute.
Exactly. Other albums that I loved, With Sails Ahead by Infinite Void. Shout out to Sierra for getting me onto that one. Obviously, the Mod Style EP, the Bring Me the Horizon record was fantastic. I need some more time with the Billy record, but I think that's probably going to end up there. And my last honorable mention, I'm going to let you introduce, because my last honorable mention is your album of the year.
Oh, that's gonna hurt me. My number one is You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To by Knox Loose. I have listened to that album more times in the 2 months it has been out than anything else I have listened to in the past 6 months. Or maybe month it's been.
It's been about a month.
It's been about a month. I have listened to it multiple hundreds of times. I listen to it multiple times a day. I think that Moss Covers All into Take Me Home is one of the best transitions I have seen a band do that is not explicitly a prog rock band. Like, you have your Genesises, you have your Porcupine Trees, you have your Dream Theaters, where a big thing they like to do is make suites that are just long songs. Take Me Home and Moss Covers All really has the potential, it shows the potential for Knocked Loose to be a really good prog band. I don't think that we see a lot of bands doing story in music. Like, we have it tried out with, like, Next Gen, but it doesn't work as cohesively if you're not doing it well. And I think that Knocked Loose's last release, A Tear in the Fabric of Life, is one of the best examples of storytelling in music that I've seen in a long time. It's brutal, it's heartbreaking. You feel for the character of the story. The first time I heard the car crash on that, my heart actually stopped for a minute. And I felt the same thing hearing that transition between Moss Covers All and To Take Me Home, just that dissonant guitar strumming, going right into heavy shit. And I think that breakdown in the middle of Take Me Home is also a really good example of what I think prog rock is, which is experimenting in music. I feel like one problem that I can have with metalcore is that a lot of it can sound the same. right? It's dissonant sounds, it's screechy vocals. It can really be lumped into one thing. Knocked Loose has somehow been able to make each song sound different in a way that makes them recognizable. I think I already said this, but Piece by Piece was my lowest rated on this album, and I think that that's only because it feels like a standard Knocked Loose song. When you have something like Suffocate with Poppy, the reggaeton beat that they throw in there really like differentiates it from any other metalcore band. Slaughterhouse 2, I think that there's a lot to be said about that the way I described it to Mo when we were talking about it is Slaughterhouse is Motionless in White's take on it. Slaughterhouse 2 is Knocked Loose's take on it. It's that edge that they have. Again,
I would say I think another difference is I think that Brian works way better in Motionless in White style than I think Chris Motionless works in Knocked Loose style, because I think Chris needs that like fucking like pomp and circumstance, that pop side of things to really come in.
The kind of Ice Nine Kills of it. You know what I mean?
Peter Corkin.
Yes.
Peter Kidcore, rather.
I think that Slaughterhouse 2 is disappointing as there's the joke of Slaughterhouse is so good. What about Slaughterhouse? What about Slaughterhouse 2? I don't think it lives up to the hype that they built with Slaughterhouse, especially seeing the live performances. You can't really release a track that goes as fucking hard as Brian Garris screaming, cut you up at the top of his fucking lungs. Suffocate is my top track of the year. I'm saying that right now in fucking June. I don't think anything will top it. It is the right mixture of hard for me, that the right mixture of hard and different little things thrown in there that it really works. Yeah, Knocked Loose, You Won't Go Before You're Supposed to is my top album. I really think that not only is it a solid entry for a third album from a band, I think it shows the potential that Knocked Loose has as a band, going from laugh tracks to A Different Shade of Blue to You Won't Go Before You're Supposed to. It really shows their evolution, especially taking into account A Tear in the Fabric of Life. Also, Brian Wilson, clear the Beach Boys song for the sample. Why do you just have it be silenced on Spotify?
It's Mike Love's fault.
It's stupid. Clear the fucking sample. A Tear in the Fabric of Life does not work without God Only Knows. It makes it so much more haunting. Anyway, that's my rant about A Tear in the Fabric of Life.
We were talking about how you were going to be shocked if The Knocked Loose was not my album of the year. And I think it was for like a minute, but there was another album that came out that you were talking about how they're bringing a lot of new elements to metalcore, and I would agree with that, but there is another album by another band that brought new elements to another genre that has a very special place in my heart, that I think did it just a little bit better for me, and it has made me more excited about the future of that genre. My number one album of 2024 at this midway point is Diminishing Returns by Runaway Ricochet.
Mm-hmm. I should have seen that coming.
You really should.
Yeah. With how much you've been talking about Runaway Ricochet lately, yeah, I should have seen that coming.
They're another band that I saw at SPI Fest, but I was listening to their album before that. Ska is a genre that I love, and it's a genre that I want to get more acclaim than it does. And I was talking to Cool Chris about this. Like, ska is seen as a novelty in a lot of ways, where if you're pitching like a bunch of different bands to like a festival, they'll go like, oh, we already have enough ska, we can't like fit it. It's a quota that they're trying to meet. What I love so much about Diminishing Returns is the way that it brings in so many other genres. Like, obviously there's like your reggae and your jazz and everything, which are already parts of ska, but then they bring in like specifically on Optimist, which other than a bar song Shabuzi and like Marble Studios by Modify, that is my song of the year. In metalcore elements with like background screams, it brings in this fucking like Steel Panther-esque just ripping fucking solo. And then the other side of it that I love so much is just the lyrical sentiment. Saxton writes lyrics in a way that Saxton or Eric, whichever way that you personally refer to them, Their lyrics are so personal and so about how they see the world in a way that it doesn't. A lot of punk, I feel like, is a call to arms. This feels like punk rock and ska punk that is bringing you into an experience rather than just bringing out a call to arms. And I think in a lot of ways that could be a lot more effective. The album's perfect. It's I have maybe like 5 records that I would give a 10 out of 10. I would give a 10 out of 10 to Diminishing Returns by Runaway Ricochet, my number 1 album at the midway point of 2024. Scarlett, thank you so much for joining me on this episode, and also for being my girlfriend and being wonderful. Where can people find you?
Nowhere, really. I'm not really that online, yet. Yet.
We'll let you guys know. You guys can find links in the description to my Linktree, which has my socials and links to episodes of this very podcast, video and audio formats. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, you can leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all the things that people tell you to do. Please pledge to the Patreon. I'm very poor. I'm very, very poor. Please pledge to the Patreon. The logo for the Cuddlepunk podcast is done by Lauren Young. You can find her Instagram down in the description below. The theme song for the Cuddlepunk podcast is Lose a Turn by Modify, whose links you can always find in the description down below. Scarlett, thanks for coming on, babe.
Thanks for having me. Listen to fucking Peter Gabriel.